Some of you have seen a movie this year called The Mothman Prophecies, based on real events in West Virginia in the 1960s. What you probably didn't realize is that very similar sightings of a large bird-like creature were reported in South Texas in 1976. It's a bizarre case from the Tex-Files.
This is weird.
An X-Files episode entitled Detour, a frightening creature with glowing red eyes, based loosely on the Mothman.
Sloan! Sloan!
A 5-foot-tall, feathery monster, real or imagined, that terrorized a small town in West Virginia in the summer of 1966. 10 years later, similar sightings in South Texas. The first reported sighting, January 1, 1976, 5 miles south of Harlingen, Texas, near an irrigation ditch. 2 schoolgirls, ages 11 and 14, reported seeing a horrible-looking bird of extraordinary size. They claimed it was 5 feet tall. Its wings were folded around its body, the frightened girls reported. It had large, dark red eyes. In the days that followed, the local newspapers carried more stories, reports from others who'd sighted a similar creature. One in particular from the Brownsville Herald, January 8, 1976. According to the story, 2 San Benito policemen claimed to have seen the creature. But its primary eyewitness was a Brownsville man named Alverico Guajardo. Something had struck his trailer the night before, and when he went outside, he encountered a feathery creature, 4 feet tall, with terrible-looking eyes. It's got wings like a bird, but it's not a bird, Guajardo said. That animal is not from this world.
Let's wait. Let's move on to the wire for today.
The young reporter who wrote that story is now managing editor at the paper.
If we've got a photographer handy, let's go ahead and shoot our own.
George Cox is still struck by how genuinely frightened Guajardo was by whatever he'd seen.
I believed at the time, and still do, that he'd seen something. Something had happened the night before that scared him, because he was definitely shaken up.
1976, a trailer mobile home sat here. And
Bill Young was a TV reporter then who also interviewed the Guajardo family. He says it's a story that's baffled him ever since.
Mainly because of the dent in the trailer and the feather that these people found. The feather that they found in the woods across the street was about 3 or 3.5 feet long and about 3 inches wide. I've never seen a feather that big before or since, and I can't imagine what kind of a bird would have a feather that big.
Young says he filmed the feather, had it examined at the local zoo, but no one could explain where it came from or what the Guajardo family had seen.
Whether they in fact saw a creature with glowing red eyes and claws on its feet and a huge pointed sharp beak, well, I don't know that, but they saw something and it frightened them, and they were frightened for days.
We had a rash of cow mutilations. And then we had an unidentified flying object that ran DPS troopers off the road. And I knew those guys, and something ran them off the road. All right? Then we had the big bird thing. And
initially, anthropologist Dr. Tony Zabaleta was skeptical, until a few months later, while driving back from a camping trip on a mountain road in northern Mexico, he spied a huge creature across a ravine.
Got out the binoculars and looked at it. It was a bird. I mean, an enormous bird. In fact, it gave me shivers because we sleep outside, you know? And there's this bird that's as big as I am.
Dr. Zabaleta thinks it may well have been an unusually large condor that somehow wandered far out of its range. But of one thing, he's now certain.
There was a 5-foot bird out there.
But whatever Alverico Guajardo described to Bill Young seemed not to be a bird at all.
The red glowing eyes. He thought it was something demonic. And that's what really frightened him and his family.
However you explain it, whatever it was, the big bird sightings in the Rio Grande Valley ended as abruptly as they began. For the first few months of 1976, there were a whole series of reports, some of them from very credible people. After that, nothing. For now, more than 20 years. Next week, another case from the Tex-Files. Frankly, most conspiracy theories in the JFK assassination don't stand up to close scrutiny. But there are some legitimate mysteries, and most of them revolve around what happened on a small plot of ground that has come to be called the Grassy Knoll. That's next Sunday night on Fox 4 News at 9.